Oh, the key won't turn. When I got home after work, for some reason, the key wouldn't unlock the door. I thought maybe the key was broken, so I went around to the back door. But the back door key wouldn't fit either. Worried about being locked out, I rang the doorbell, but no one answered. Then I got a call from my mother-in-law, Bethany, who was supposed to be at home.
I had all the locks changed, so you have no home to come back to, you freeloader,
she said and hung up. I decided that if she was going to go that far, I would never return home again. A few days later, Bethany called me again in a panic. But I told her straight, "This is the result of your actions. My name is Emily. I am turning 50 this year. I've been married to my husband, Kevin, for 25 years, but I can't say we've been very close. At first, I was a stay-at-home mom handling all the housework, but I found it boring. So about 5 years into our marriage, I started working too. I live in a house with a yard and a garage, and since I was pregnant when we got married, we have a 25-year-old daughter. Also, my mother-in-law, Bethany, lives with us. Bethany is very difficult and constantly complains about everything I do. Her complaints are really trivial, like not liking the taste of my cooking or the way I clean. 4 years into our marriage, Bethany divorced her husband and moved in with us. A few months after she moved in, Bethany started to harass me in addition to her constant nagging. The first time I felt it was harassment was when I found out I wasn't included in a trip I had booked. When my daughter was in middle school, we decided to go on a family trip. Since we had already picked the location, I took charge of the reservations. However, Bethany had told me she had other plans and said,
"Sorry, but you three go ahead this time."
So I booked for 3 people. But on the day of the trip, Bethany said something shocking.
"Oh, did I say I had plans? I don't remember that."
Since I had only booked for 3, I suggested we go as 4 next time, but Bethany said,
"Emily, you must be mistaken. Both Kevin and your daughter said they didn't hear that."
And to my surprise, Kevin and our daughter sided with Bethany. In the end, it was decided that it was my fault for making the wrong reservation, and Kevin, our daughter, and Bethany went on the trip without me. Bethany even had the nerve to say to me, who was left behind,
"The weeds in the yard are growing. Make sure to clean them up."
Even though I had taken time off, the 3 days I was supposed to be on the trip were spent doing yard work and deep cleaning the house. Despite enduring Bethany's harassment, I kept going, but there was one thing I couldn't stand. It was about our daughter, Sophia. Since she was little, Sophia sided with Bethany more than me. At first, I wondered why, but I finally understood. Bethany had been secretly giving her extra pocket money. When Sophia was in her first year of middle school, I gave her about $10 a month as allowance. I also gave her extra money for holidays and special occasions, which I thought was enough for a middle schooler. But as a growing girl, she wanted to go out and buy cosmetics and other things. She turned to Bethany for extra money. And Bethany, being soft on her, gave in to all her demands.
"Grandma, I ran out of money again this month. If I tell Mom, she'll get mad. Can you help?"
"Oh dear, you're a growing girl. You must have lots of things you want. Is $50 enough?"
"Yes. With that, I can hang out with my friends. Thanks."
I overheard this conversation by chance. And it seems the amount of money Bethany gave increased over the years. By the time our daughter was in high school, she was getting $100 a month. Even though she was old enough to get a part-time job, she never worked because she could always count on Bethany for money. And then, my daughter started to treat me more harshly. Of course, the reason was Bethany. One day, I came home early by chance, and since it was summer vacation, Sophia was at home. I overheard this conversation between her and Bethany.
So, how's Emily been? Is she acting like a proper mom?
No, not at all. She doesn't take me anywhere and is always working. I mean, she's just working part-time. So why does she need to work so much?
Exactly. I keep telling her to stay home and do housework, but she always wants to defy me. It's a shame when your mother is like that, especially when my sweet Sophia is such a good girl.
I was speechless when I heard this conversation. I never thought my daughter felt that way about me. My daughter had spent a lot of time with Bethany over the years. Bethany must have brainwashed her into thinking I was the bad one. I had been enduring Bethany's harassment, but knowing my daughter was completely on Bethany's side broke my spirit. After that, I stopped following any of Bethany's instructions. I refused sudden errands and stopped making time for housework that I was forced into. Bethany started making snide remarks, but eventually began ignoring me. She would talk normally with my daughter and husband, but not with me. Seeing Bethany act that way, my daughter began to treat me the same. My husband would talk to me, but it felt distant. This situation continued for nearly 5 years. Typically speaking, divorce wouldn't be surprising. My daughter ignored me, and my husband said nothing. When I talked to my friends, they said, "This is really bad." I knew I had to change this situation, but then something unbelievable happened. One day, after work, I tried to unlock the front door as usual. Oh, the key won't turn. For some reason, the key wouldn't go all the way in. Confused, I tried the back door, but the key wouldn't fit there either. Needing to get inside to continue working, I rang the doorbell, but no one answered. Bethany and Sophia should have been home. After a while, I got a call on my cell from the home phone. It was Bethany.
I'm busy, so stop ringing the doorbell.
When I asked her to let me in, she said something shocking. She had replaced all the locks. "Why did you do that? Please open the door. I can't get in," she responded.
No, you don't live here anymore. You don't talk to anyone, and you're just like air, so it doesn't matter, right? My son and granddaughter will be home soon, so could you disappear before they get here? You're an eyesore. We're happy without you.
She hung up before I could reply. Feeling hopeless, I decided to go back to my parents' house. Fortunately, I had everything I needed for work in my bag, and I had my valuables with me. All I had at home were clothes and accessories, so not being able to get in wasn't a huge problem. However, I did need to find a place to stay for the night. I considered a business hotel, but my parents' house was within walking distance of my office. Their house is about a 30-minute drive from mine, so I headed there by car. I hadn't visited much lately due to my busy schedule, so my parents were both surprised when I said I was coming over suddenly. But they seemed happy to hear I was coming.
Welcome home. It's been a while. How have you been?
Really? How long has it been? You always say you're busy with work and never come home. It's good to see you.
Despite my unexpected arrival, my parents were very kind and welcoming. They must have known something was wrong, but didn't push me, and instead were gentle and talked to me. My mom made my favorite hamburgers, and my dad bought my favorite red wine. Touched by their kindness and a bit tipsy from the wine, I started crying during dinner.
Hey, what's wrong? Don't cry. We knew something happened, but you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
You always try to handle everything on your own. Sometimes it's easier to let it out if you're struggling.
Moved by their kind words, I ended up telling them everything that had happened. I also asked for their advice on what to do next. They listened silently, but as the story went on, their expressions grew darker. My dad clenched his fists so hard they turned red from anger. When I finished, they said,
This is ridiculous. How could they treat our only daughter like this? Kevin's just as bad. Not doing anything while his wife suffers. What a heartless man.
You've endured so much. You don't have to put up with it anymore. If you keep holding it in, you'll reach your limit. Anyone can see you're almost at your breaking point.
If it's too much, you can come back here. Isn't your office nearby? You can get your stuff from the house later. For now, stay here.
So, I ended up moving back to my parents' house. Around 10 p.m., my husband called, probably realizing I wasn't home. I thought ignoring the call wouldn't help, so I answered.
You're not home. What's going on? You always come back right after work. And why is dinner just grocery store deli items? Did something happen at work?
He usually never cared about me, but he contacted me now. Not wanting to drag out the conversation, I told him Bethany had changed the locks and told me not to come back. He immediately sounded panicked.
Is that true? You're not lying, right? Wait a second. I'll check with Mom.
He put down the receiver and probably went to call Bethany. I could hear my husband and Bethany talking in the distance.
Mom, did you tell Emily to leave? And you changed the locks?
So what? She's useless whether she's here or not. She's probably at her parents' house. We can send her stuff later. You should just divorce her. I'll take care of Sophia.
Are you crazy? Do you realize what you've done?
I heard my husband shout suddenly. I'd never heard him yell before, and Bethany probably hadn't either.
Why are you so mad? You don't even get along with her. Isn't it better if she leaves?
She kept bad-mouthing me, even while panicking, thinking it was pointless to say anything. My husband came back on the line and said,
I'm sorry. Can you come back home so we can talk this through?
But I had no intention of ever returning to that house. I told him the same and hung up. A few days later, a call came to my parents' house. It was from our home number, so I answered, and it was Bethany.
Oh, Emily, I'm sorry about the other day. You know, there have been a lot of burglaries lately, right? And I lost my house key. So, I was scared a burglar might find it and get into the house. That's why I had the locks changed immediately. I apologize for not telling you, but please come back soon.
Bethany rattled off her excuses the moment I answered. However, I knew her real intention. She didn't actually feel sorry. She just wanted me back. As I told my husband, I had no intention of returning to that house. I told Bethany the same thing.
Are you seriously upset about that? You're a grown-up. Get over it. Just because you have a bit of money, you think you're better than us? My son works much harder and earns more than you.
The reason Bethany said that was because I had been the main breadwinner. Kevin had switched jobs, but his new company wasn't doing well. No bonuses and a low base salary. He was lured by the promise of commissions, but things hadn't been going well for years. He once said to me,
It will work out someday. Until then, please support us.
a few years into my job, I was financially stable and could support the family. As Kevin asked, I had been supporting the family all this time. I endured Bethany's insults, my daughter's cold shoulder, and my husband's indifference. But I didn't owe money to someone who told me to leave. Kevin must have told Bethany that I earned more. Otherwise, Bethany wouldn't have called. Her pride kept her from sincerely apologizing. To anyone else, I would have said, "It's fine. Just be careful next time." But not to Bethany. This was my chance to be free, and my chance to get back at Bethany. I couldn't pass up this opportunity. Bethany kept saying I was unnecessary and that everything was fine without me. So I told her, "This is the result of your actions." Then I hung up the phone. A month after I left, I got another call from home. This time it wasn't Bethany, but my daughter.
Mom, where are you? Come back soon. The house is a mess without you. We need you here.
Even though she had neglected me for so long, now she wanted me to come back soon. However, as I delved deeper into the conversation, I realized it wasn't because she missed me. When I listened carefully, it was clear she was struggling financially. Even if she said that now, I had no intention of helping my daughter. She was already 25 years old. She should know the difference between right and wrong. Yet, she had ignored me all this time. She hadn't studied hard, didn't go to college, and never seriously job hunted. When she finally decided to work, it was a part-time job, not aiming for a full-time position. She probably thought she could live freely on my income alone, so a part-time job was enough. But now that I was gone, they couldn't maintain their previous lifestyle on Kevin's income alone. I was making nearly $200,000 a year. Why? Because I had started my own company. Only Kevin knew about it, and I was grateful he didn't oppose it. I didn't tell Bethany because I knew she would oppose and mock me, and my daughter would side with her. Kevin's base salary was about the same as a fresh graduate's. He earned commissions if he could sell products. Kevin wasn't very good at his job, but loved chasing dreams. I used to think it was fine to let him be, but that was in the past. I no longer felt the need to support that family. But my revenge didn't end there. The house we lived in was built by me. The mortgage was paid off, and I could sell it any time. I was already preparing to sell and had a potential buyer. I thought it would be harsh to suddenly kick them out, so I informed my daughter, "I'm planning to sell the house, so you need to move out soon. I won't be giving you any financial support. Also, I'm planning to divorce your father. I have proof of all the harassment and his failure to help me. I've already sent the divorce papers, so make sure he signs them soon."
You're selling the house? Where am I supposed to live then? We're already struggling to afford food.
That's not my problem. You're an adult now. Figure it out yourself." My daughter seemed to want to say more, but I didn't want to get involved further, so I hung up. I wasn't abandoning my responsibilities as a mother, but given her past behavior, I felt no emotion. Knowing them, I thought they might refuse to leave, but they seemed to care about appearances, and moved out before the house was sold. I was worried Kevin wouldn't sign the divorce papers I sent by mail, but he did so without any fuss. Bethany probably urged him to divorce me. I didn't understand why Bethany hated me so much, but she always said things like,
"We're fine without her. She's just a burden. Sophia doesn't see her as a mother, and you have no reason to stay married. You do better without her."
Kevin knew I was the one supporting the household, so he managed to dodge those comments. But Bethany was probably displeased with that too. Kevin wasn't good at expressing his opinions, especially to Bethany, and he usually obeyed whatever she said. So he probably filled out the divorce papers reluctantly because Bethany told him to. For me, that was a huge relief. If he hadn't signed the papers, it could have gone to family court. To avoid that, I gave him half the money from selling the house. But I'm sure he hasn't told Bethany or our daughter because it would disappear immediately. The three of them have moved to Bethany's family home, which is far away and currently owned by other relatives. Bethany's relatives are known for their strong personalities and the belief that the head of the household is the most important. The three of them living there are likely feeling quite uncomfortable. I met these relatives once at a funeral, and they seemed stern and unapproachable. Although they aren't really like that once you get to know them, they come across as strict with people who are unreliable. Bethany's actions had spread among the relatives, and they had this to say.
"You all are so ungrateful, repaying kindness with betrayal. Emily probably wants nothing to do with you anymore, so we won't ask you to do anything for her. Just try to become decent human beings."
I thought it would have been better if this had happened sooner, but they probably wouldn't have listened to me anyway. By the way, I was the one who reported the lock-changing incident to Bethany's relatives. At the funeral, I exchanged contact information with them and sent them a recording of my conversation with Bethany. They were furious and scolded Bethany.
"We always knew she was selfish, but we never thought she'd become a mother-in-law who bullies her daughter-in-law. And what about Kevin? How could he not protect his wife? We always knew he was indecisive, but this is unforgivable."
The relatives were the ones who updated me on their situation. The three of them are now living with Bethany's relatives and are helping around the house. The relatives are farmers, and my daughter helps out all day. Bethany, considering her age, doesn't work in the fields, but does cooking and cleaning. Kevin found a job nearby, but sometimes works until midnight. When he comes home, everyone is asleep, and if he makes too much noise, he gets scolded. So he eats dinner with only a small light on and leaves for work before anyone else wakes up. All three of them are exhausted. As for me, I'm still living with my parents. The only significant change is that my company has grown. In return for living at my parents' house, I decided to build a new home for them. They said it wasn't necessary, but their current home has become inconvenient for their age. So, I'm planning to build a barrier-free house for them. At first, they were hesitant, but after seeing the plans, they became enthusiastic.
This kitchen looks easy to use. We can put the fridge here and the microwave there.
Is it really okay to have such a big house? You're even making me a study. I'm very grateful.
Of course. I'm grateful to be born into this family. I haven't done much for you, so let me do this. My parents teared up when I said this. Now in my 50s, I don't have any plans to remarry. If I'm to have a new family, I want to cherish the people around me now. Throughout this ordeal, my friends have also given me courage and support. Though it might take time, I plan to repay their kindness as well.